Oh, you there?
Hey, hello.
Hey, how you going?
Good.
Oh, it's good. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having
So,
me.
all right. So yesterday was World Diabetes Day. No, the day before that. So I
Yeah,
was wanting to have a chat with you guys, with you in particular, because you said that you have type 1 diabetes.
I do. I do. Yep. I was diagnosed at 15, quite a few
Yep.
years ago now. Um, yeah, it was a hard time. Obviously, being a teenager, you're already
Yep.
set in ways, and having to adjust those ways was quite difficult.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
So
What
what
else would you
happened?
like
Did
to know?
you So what happened? So you said 15, like was there an incident that happened or you were feeling unwell or
So basically, we had gone away on holiday. So we are
Yep.
just down south and we were away with friends and, I dropped down to sort of 40 odd kilos, which, I'm
Wow.
quite a tall girl. So that was, a big sign. Mum
Yep.
and dad actually thought might have been on, something else,
Yep.
but
Yep.
they used to get my friend to come and follow me because we were staying at a campsite. They'd get my
Yeah.
girlfriend to follow me in there to make sure that, I
You
wasn't
weren't doing
taking
anything.
anything or I wasn't, I didn't have an eating disorder or something like that.
Mm. Yep.
Um, then we'd gone on this cave tour. So you had to go
Yep.
climb the caves and we'd come back up and my dad had said to me, grab a drink out the fridge, just choose whatever you like and, we'll pay
Yep.
for it at the little cafe. So I
Yep.
go up to the fridge and I didn't just grab a bottle of water, I'd grabbed a bottle of Coke, a bottle of water and a chopped milk. And he just looked at me and he said, don't be so ridiculous, go and put it back. And I said, no, Dad, honestly, I'm really thirsty. And he said,
Yep.
okay, you can have the water and you can choose one of the other ones. So,
Yep.
chose a bottle, a 600 ml bottle of Coke.
Coke.
Literally, within a couple of minutes, the bottle of water and the Coke were gone. So
What?
Dad was really quite concerned. He's like, oh, you can't be
Yeah.
that thirsty. I said, yep, I am. Anyway, so we finished off that holiday and I actually was scheduled for knee surgery at PMH at the time. And so we checked in there and my mum had mentioned to the doctor, she's lost all this weight. She's continually drinking, constantly
Yep.
urinating, really, really lethargic, really tired. And they said,
Yep.
oh, I think she might be diabetic. We'll run some
Wow.
tests. So
Yep.
luckily I'd gone into hospital for that procedure.
Yeah.
And yeah, it turns out straight into ICU after having the little knee procedure. And I was almost
Oh.
24 hours into going into ketoacidosis, which is actually quite deadly. So
What is that?
yeah, it's when you get acid in your blood.
Yep.
So it can be fatal if it's not treated.
Wow.
So that was
My
the beginning.
goodness. So after that, I guess like you're just lucky that you had a doctor that knew what they were listening to your mum. Do you know what I mean? Like otherwise you
Yeah,
just wouldn't even know.
no, no, because
So
my mum had actually said she'd taken me to the doctors a few months before that because I was really quite tired and all that kind of
yeah,
thing. And
yeah,
they kind of just brushed it off. And she's a teenager, she's studying, she's dancing, she's got a lot going
yeah.
on, so she'll be fine. And then
So
yeah, a few
okay,
months
so
later.
I've known you since primary school, but you used to dance when you were a kid. So how did that kind of affect it? Like, you were just dancing, like were you just moving on with life and just continuing being a teenager? Or like
Yeah,
that must have been really tiring.
it was. Lucky enough, the dancing school, that I was at, they were obviously
Yeah,
friends as well as that. So they
yeah,
actually adjusted a little bit for me, in allowing us to have breaks and dinner breaks so
yeah,
that I could actually eat so that my sugars wouldn't drop low.
yeah,
Whereas we never had that before. It was, grab a quick drink, let's keep on going.
yeah,
So yeah, so that definitely helped and having the support of everyone around me was was a major thing. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
takes a
I was very
village to raise a
grateful. It
child.
really does. It really
Yeah.
does.
So,
So
like, I know when you're young and dumb and, you know, so like, how did that go with your drinking? Like, did it affect, like, you know, when you're older, like going to a nightclub, getting, you know, getting on the spirits or the drinks or whatever, like, did it kind of change your frame of thoughts?
look, it did at times,
Yeah.
especially at the beginning sort of stages when I first, sort of started getting into drinking and things like that.
Mm,
You'd think you're invisible and you would just continue on and
mm,
think, I can do this, I'm okay. So you
yeah.
drink and, it was fine at the time, but then, throughout the night when you're trying to sleep, your sugars actually drop. So they kind of peak while you're drinking and then, they drop down. So luckily enough for me, I had my husband, who was my partner at the
Mm,
time, and
yeah.
he actually used to wake me up sometimes and say, Mel, you're all sweaty, like you need to, I think you're going low, can
Wow.
you check your sugars and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and then I quickly learnt that if I actually ate while I was drinking or, even snacked on
Yeah.
peanuts or anything really, that'd sort of maintain it a little bit better. So it was
Yeah.
just all, learning to live with it and manage through your activities in your everyday life.
Yeah.
So
So you would have to, because I see people do the injection. Is that how you would check?
I did, yeah. So I had a little glucose monitor and you just finger prick, squeeze a little bit of blood out and put it on the little strip and
Yeah.
it will, a minute or so later, it will tell you what number you are.
Yeah.
Um, I wasn't very good at continuing that. Um, but luckily enough for me, and I can actually feel myself when my sugars start to go low. A lot of
Yeah.
people actually lose that. I've been very
Yeah.
lucky and haven't. But as well
Yeah.
as that, now, there's so much more different technology and things like that. So I currently use a
Yeah.
Freestyle Libre. So basically, it's this little white patch on my arm here. So you
Yep.
insert that into your arm. You don't feel it. It
So it's like
lasts
a
for two
pin?
weeks. Yeah. So the actual inside of it is actually like a soft needle. So when you actually take it off, you can move the little needle thing around. It's
Wow.
flimsy.
Yeah.
And you have an app on your phone and you basically scan the back of your phone and it will tell you what number you are, if you're
Oh
trending
my,
high, trending
really?
low. It's amazing. So really
Wow.
grateful for that. Makes it a
Yeah.
lot easier.
So what's the difference? I'm not very knowledgeable about diabetes. So you've said you've type 1.
Yes.
There's type 2, isn't there,
There is.
as well?
So type 1 is controlled by insulin injections or, they have pumps and things like that now.
Yep.
Whereas type 2 generally is managed by diet. Some people
Mm,
take tablet medication, and I think
sure.
there are the odd people that have insulin injection on top of that. So,
Mm,
basically type 1, they say is not hereditary. Um,
yep.
but I don't know. I think they're
Who
doing more
knows?
studies and things like that on that now. So,
Mm.
yeah.
I mean, I think what triggered me off about getting, loved ones, that have diabetes and come on the show and talk about it, it was like they said something crazy to like the whole world in 2025. There's going to be like 300 million cases of diabetes.
Mm,
And it's like, wow, that's huge.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so like you've had beautiful children. How did
I
that
have.
go with your pregnancy?
So there was a bit of a process prior to falling pregnant.
Yeah,
You had to have your HbA1c, which is your average blood sugar level over a 3-month period. That
yep,
had to be below 7, because
yep,
anything above that can actually be quite dangerous in the way that the fetus grows and things like that.
yep,
So there was a bit of a process leading up to falling pregnant. Luckily for
Yep.
me, mine was in range, so I didn't have to stress too much about that.
Yeah.
Falling pregnant, again, lucky enough for myself, happened quite
Mm.
quickly. Managing the pregnancy throughout was a little bit of an up and down ride. You know, I had my days where my sugars were out of control, and I would, no matter what I did, I couldn't get them to where they were meant to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Obviously, with hormones and things like that rolling through your body, it's quite full on.
Yeah.
Um, Come to giving birth and things like that. So they basically
Yeah.
schedule you in. So they induce you. When you're a diabetic, the babies tend to be on the larger side. So they
Right.
monitor you consistently throughout your pregnancy with, you know, additional scans and blood
Mm.
work and everything like that. So with my first son, I got induced at 36 weeks.
Yep.
In saying that, you know, generally people with a 36-week baby, they're quite small, whereas, you know, my son was 8 pound 5, and that was a month early. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so they make sure they induce you so that they can monitor you throughout. You have
Yeah.
insulin on a drip to continually, you know, make sure your sugars and all that stay in check.
Mm.
Yeah, and then I went on to have another 2 pregnancies after that, which were
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah.
My daughter was born at 37 weeks, and then my third son was born at 38 weeks. So I
Oh,
managed to go a
wow.
little bit further
Yep.
each time, which was great.
Yep. Was that under the care of like the gold team at King Eddie, or was that,
It was.
yeah? Aren't
Yeah,
they
they're
amazing?
amazing. Can't speak
They're just,
highly enough.
mm-mm. That's why when I had my daughter, I was like, I was with the gold team because they said I couldn't have children.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I had had a stillborn and a miscarry and an ectopic pregnancy. So they were like, Sheree, you're not having a baby. Like you can't, like you just can't. So I had to like mentally prepare myself.
Yeah.
And then when I rang my immunologist, I was like, guess what? We're having a baby. And he was like, do not get excited because we don't know what's going to happen. And I knew in my heart that if I was at King Eddie and I can
Yeah.
get past 26 weeks, she'll be fine.
Yeah.
They're the best. Yeah, they're just the best people, and the research and education that they give us as parents as well was amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we're
No,
very
I
lucky
can't
to
speak
have
highly
them.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Even the
So
aftercare.
yeah, I was going to ask you, so did they follow up with you after and just
They
say,
did.
yeah. And was there
Yeah.
anything that they could kind of say, watch out for this or watch out for that after a pregnancy, or was it just go back to
No, look,
normal?
it was they did for my first birth. They kept me in hospital. I was actually in hospital for almost 2 weeks, only because I had preeclampsia and had some other issues
That's what I was going
after
to
having
ask.
him.
So gestational diabetes and type 1 diabetes, did they kind of mix or not?
No, no. So because I was already a type 1, yeah, I
Mm,
was unable to get the gestational.
yep,
I haven't actually heard of any cases with the both. I'm not sure if it can happen, but
yep.
yeah, they kept me in ICU for a few days, which was a bit sad, you know, being the first baby into our family. You can only have one person kind of visit you at the
Yep.
time.
Mm,
But again, the care whilst in there and, you know, moving on to the ward and then, you know, the continual
mm,
checkups of how's
yeah.
everything going, how are you feeling? And then you'd have the diabetes team come in, you know, multiple times a day and check on you. And yeah, I'm very grateful.
Wow. So they have their own like department
Yeah,
of di. Wow, that's amazing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
really good to see that we are that advanced, though. I mean, you've got,
Come a long way.
yeah, exactly. So I wanted to touch on like my hubby supported me through everything. And it sounds like your hubby is absolutely amazing. Um, because you guys obviously met when you were younger. And talk me a little bit about what he thinks of the whole thing, because it can be very daunting for them.
Yeah, he actually, so I was with him prior to getting type 1. So
Yeah,
he actually watched me, dwindle in weight and things like that.
yeah,
And I remember him having a go at me when I was probably, I reckon, maybe about 10 kilos lighter than what I would normally sit at.
yeah.
And he said to me, he goes, I hope you're not starving yourself. And I said, why would I do that? And he goes, well, teenagers these days trying to keep up with the Joneses and things like that.
Yeah,
And I just said, no, I'm not. I dance a lot because I had no idea about anything else.
yeah,
And obviously when we found out that that was the beginnings of it all,
yeah,
number one supporter really.
yeah,
He'd help me, he'd make sure I'd check my sugar levels. Like I said, he'd wake me up if I'd go low. This was obviously a few years on.
yeah.
um, and he's always, even to this day, should you be eating that? So he's
Shut up.
yeah, he's very on to me. And I
Yeah,
do appreciate it, as much as I snap at him sometimes. I know that it's
that's
in
what
my
we're
best
there for.
interest. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, yeah, men that can help, like, sorry, men that can assist you through the good and the bad, and through sickness and in health, I think they're just amazing, and we don't thank them enough. So
No, no,
I'm so glad. So, okay, so moving forward, so you've got two beautiful boys and a beautiful girl. So you
I
said it's
do.
not hereditary. Did anyone in your family have it prior to you having it?
No,
Like, did your mum or no?
no, I'm the lucky one. My granddad, which is my dad's father, so he had type 2 diabetes, and I did
Right.
mention that in the beginnings, when they were sort of explaining everything to me, and they
Yeah.
said, no, it's definitely got nothing to do with that. We don't
Yeah.
100% know why people get type 1.
Yeah.
Um, they're thinking, some studies that I've read, they're thinking like a certain gene that you hold
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
link it. But again, it's all study. They don't know for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And I have heard that you can get a blood test to see whether or not your children have this specific gene.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm in the process of actually looking into that further and finding out
Yeah.
whether or not it's something that we can do. Not that you
Yeah.
can prevent it happening, but,
You could just
at least if you
prepare
know.
them, educate.
Yeah,
And if you like introduce it into their lives now, they kind of just grow up with it, don't they?
that's right. And, as much as they say the diet doesn't have a lot to do with diagnosis and things like that, we try and feed our kids a healthy, nutritious diet to try and prevent them having to
Yeah.
go through what I do. So,
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully
Well,
not.
you're absolutely beautiful. And yeah, I just think you're amazing. And to learn, I guess, like when people are saying, oh, is she bulimic or is she, like all this other stuff, it must have been really hard for you. And
Yeah.
just knowing that you and your husband and your mum and dad, like your family is unreal. Like they are just amazing. So I'm glad that you had that village. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
very
so
grateful.
thankful.
Thank you.
All right. No, thank you for coming on because, yeah, there's a lot of people that don't know anything about diabetes. Myself, it's probably the only thing that I don't have.
Yeah.
So,
Let's
but
not add that to the list.
yeah, when they say, "Do you have diabetes?" I'm like, "No, no, I don't." But yeah, that's the only thing. But yeah, no, thank you, Mel, for coming on. You're just amazing. And yeah,
No worries. Thank you so
all
much for
right.
having me.
No worries, darling. I'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye.